dangerous incident in the South China Sea has renewed concerns about rising tensions between China and Philippines. On August 11th, a Chinese destroyer and a China Coast Guard ship crashed into each other while trying to block a Philippines Coast Guard vessel, the BRP Suluan. The Philippine ship was on a mission to deliver supplies to the fishermen as a part of a government program. As per reports and a video that surfaced online, Beijing's maneuvers were aggressive. Chinese vessels moved in to block the Philippine ship, but instead one of their own destroyers struck a Coast Guard cutter, leaving it badly damaged.
On August 11th, 2025, around 10:37 a.m. local time, a tense scene unfolded over the turquoise waters of the South China Sea. The USS Higgins, a U.S. Navy Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, cut through the waves near Scarborough Shoal. The sun glinted off its radar domes as sailors monitored the instruments, fully aware that Chinese naval vessels were already shadowing them. The stakes could not have been higher. This was not just another patrol. It was a high-stakes test of wills in one of the world's most contested maritime zones, a collision that shocked Beijing. Just days earlier, on August 11th, the People's Liberation Army Navy planned destroyer Guilin and China Coast Guard cutter CCG 3104 had collided 10.5 nautical miles east of Scarborough Shoal while attempting to intercept the Philippine Coast Guard cutter BRP Suluan. The collision was catastrophic. At least 4 Chinese Coast Guard personnel were either severely injured or killed. Videos captured the moment before impact, showing sailors scrambling on deck, the tension thick in the air. The Guilin's bow struck the CCG 3104 at high speed, causing a massive gash and sending crew members overboard. Orders from higher authorities had clearly prioritized aggressive action over humanitarian response. This incident was not random. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s Kadiwa ng Bagong Bayaning Mangingisda (KBBM) program had just started, supplying Filipino fishermen in the contested area. China viewed this as a direct challenge to its claims over Scarborough Shoal, which it calls Huangyan Island. The collision was a warning, a clear signal that Beijing was willing to take extreme measures to assert its control.
Suggests that there may have been casualties, though China has not confirmed the detail. The two sides quickly issued conflicting accounts. Manila called the incident reckless and dangerous. Chinese state media accused the Philippines of provoking the confrontation. The involvement of Chinese Navy is particularly significant. Until now, Scarborough Shoal confrontations were usually led by Coast Guard ships. Analysts warn that this could mark an escalation in China's so-called grey zone tactics, blending military and civilian force to push territorial claims. Scarborough Shoal, under China's control since 2012, lies just 120 nautical miles from the Philippines coast. Manila insists China's naval presence violates earlier understanding that warships should not be deployed in the area. The situation is sensitive. At Shangri-La Dialogue in 2024, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said if any Philippine personnel are killed in such encounters, it would cross a red line, potentially leading to joint action with the United States under their Mutual Defense Treaty.
The USS Higgins enters the scene. Just 2 days after the collision, at 9 a.m. on August 13th, the USS Higgins sailed within sight of Scarborough Shoal. The U.S. Navy's mission was clear: conduct a freedom of navigation operation, FONAOP, to challenge China's excessive maritime claims. The destroyer's crew knew this could provoke a reaction, but the operation was fully legal under international law. A dangerous standoff. From the deck of the USS Higgins, sailors could see Chinese vessels maneuvering aggressively nearby. The Guilin, repaired but still imposing, sailed in tandem with several Coast Guard cutters. The radar blips showed formations closing in, creating a visual chessboard of ships ready to test each other's limits. Lieutenant Sarah Merrill, a spokesperson for the U.S. 7th Fleet, later stated, "Nothing China says will deter us. We are defending navigational rights recognized under international law." Imagine the tension. Sailors on both sides staring across the water, each aware that one miscalculation could ignite a much larger conflict. Tracer rounds weren't flying yet, but the smell of diesel, the hum of engines, and the constant ping of radar created an atmosphere thick with anticipation. Close-range maneuvers. And the shocking thing, US and Chinese vessels were operating within just a few hundred meters of each other, close enough that a slight miscalculation could trigger another collision, like the one on August 11th. Naval analysts later noted that coordinated maneuvers of this type, with destroyers and cutters in close proximity, are extraordinarily risky. Even seasoned crews must react instantaneously to avoid disaster. The Higgins had to maintain precise speed, heading, and distance, while monitoring Chinese ships attempting to box it in. Anti-ship bombers and frigates. By August 14th, Beijing raised the stakes. H-6 bombers, equipped with supersonic Y-J-12 anti-ship missiles, flew over Scarborough Shoal. Type 05-4A frigates, Chenzhou, Liuzhou, and Bayaner, conducted combat drills, joined by at least 2 J-16 fighter jets. The presence of these high-end assets wasn't just for show. They were capable of striking targets hundreds of kilometers away, including US ships patrolling international waters.
The US response came quickly. A Navy destroyer carried out a freedom navigation patrol near the shoal, while a Chinese fighter jet intercepted Philippine surveillance plane that was carrying local journalists. The collision is a reminder of just how fragile the situation in the South China Sea remains. With no binding code of conduct yet between China and ASEAN, each incident risks pushing the region closer into a wider confrontation.
Why the world watched. The Scarborough Shoal encounter wasn't just another maritime tiff. It represented a flashpoint with global consequences. The area sits along one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, carrying trillions in trade annually. Any misstep could escalate quickly. US and Philippine forces view this region not just as contested territory, but also as a strategic buffer against Chinese expansion and potential conflict over Taiwan. President Marcos Jr. had earlier warned that the death of any Filipino in a maritime incident would be a red line, potentially triggering US support under the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty. A tactical breakdown. The USS Higgins is no ordinary ship. It is armed with advanced Aegis combat systems capable of tracking multiple threats simultaneously. The ship's radar can detect missile launches, aircraft, and fast-moving vessels from hundreds of miles away. If a threat approached, the CRAM launcher, coupled with the Phalanx CIWS, could engage multiple targets in seconds. These systems provide a lethal defensive shield, ensuring the Higgins could safely operate in close quarters with Chinese warships. Regional tensions and strategic moves. This incident must be understood in the broader context. In recent years, the US, the Philippines, and India have all increased their presence in the South China Sea. Joint exercises, patrols, and freedom of navigation operations are designed to counter Beijing's aggressive claims. For China, each encounter heightens concerns about encirclement and strategic containment, especially with the Philippines set to chair ASEAN in 2026. China's actions following the August 11th collision reveal a shift in risk tolerance. The deployment of anti-ship bombers, frigates, and aggressive patrols indicates Beijing is ready to escalate if it perceives challenges to its sovereignty. Yet at the same time, China continues diplomatic engagement with Manila to prevent regional isolation and avoid triggering a broader conflict. It's a delicate balance: deter without igniting war. The collision that could have sparked war. Here's a jaw-dropping fact. If the August 11th collision between Guilin and CCG 3104 had occurred just 500 meters closer to the BRP Suluan, the US destroyer Higgins might have been drawn into direct combat. Naval planners later described the potential scenario as a single misstep away from a major confrontation. Civilian observers might think of it as a traffic accident, but at sea, this kind of miscalculation can escalate rapidly. What happens next? So, what does this mean for Scarborough Shoal? Could China fortify the area like it did in the Spratly Islands, potentially creating an artificial island and a permanent military outpost? Or will Manila leverage its upcoming ASEAN chairmanship to push for a binding code of conduct restricting dangerous maneuvers in the area? These questions remain unanswered, keeping analysts and governments on edge. The immediate aftermath. After completing its FONOP, the USS Higgins left the area without incident. Chinese vessels maintained patrols, while H-6 bombers and frigates remained in proximity. The Philippine Coast Guard continued its Kadiwa mission, though with heightened caution. Internationally, the incident drew attention to the ongoing volatility of the South China Sea and the risks associated with aggressive maritime claims. Why this matters globally. Scarborough Shoal may be just one small maritime feature, but its significance is huge. It highlights how territorial disputes, gray zone tactics, and great power rivalry can intersect in ways that threaten regional stability. Every maneuver, every patrol, every collision carries consequences that ripple far beyond the South China Sea. Looking ahead, the Scarborough Shoal encounter sets a precedent. Beijing may deploy even more high-end assets, including aircraft carriers and advanced missile systems, to reinforce its claims. Escalation or dialogue. Meanwhile, the US and Philippine navies will likely continue joint operations to challenge excessive claims. The tension is palpable, and every operation carries the risk of miscalculation. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the latest updates.